This is Morten from Inkish. I have a pleasure talking to my friend Kevin Abergel from Taktiful in the US. And guys, I tell you both, Kevin and I, we have been so busy because we have tried to set up this into 3 or 4 times at least, right, Kevin?
At least. That's what happens when you
um,
live in airplanes, right, Morton?
yeah, and you know almost as good as I do, I think, right? Or maybe even better, but maybe more in the US. I don't know, but I mean, it's great to see you, friend.
It's great to see you again, Morton. Thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
having me on.
The reason why I reached out to you was, of course, because you sent out a press release on a new software, and we're going to talk about that. But let's start somewhere else. Um, what does community mean to you?
That's a good question. I think that's a great question. I think, what does community mean to me? For me, it's sharing, right? For me, I think community should be about sharing and understanding that everybody has maybe particular obstacles that they're going through, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure out those obstacles by themselves. And for me, community is being able to get a group of people who are doing maybe similar things, running into similar obstacles, and really sharing notes and being able to say, listen, I understand that we might be competitors in another world, but there's enough work for all of us to get our heads together and to kind of create an atmosphere where we can all get better and overcome these obstacles together on what
Mm,
we've done before. So I think
mm,
that's for me. Community is that really sharing and helping each other out on something that maybe you figured out in the past and you want to pass
mm,
on.
mm. And that is one of the things I'm always jealous at with Americans, because you are very good in America to have these kind of communities, and of course because you have, I mean, Americans are way better at traveling. I think you're way better at also spending money at going to these community gatherings. I mean, D Scoop is one example. You have Think for Canon. You have a lot of these kind of, let's say, communities that support each other. So was that one of the reasons why you looked into starting Taktiful, to have something that is specifically community driven around the embellishment side, or?
Yeah, that's 100%. I think there was, we felt digital embellishment coming for a while, at least since 2008, and it was so nascent, the technology, that only really the really early adopters and innovators were taking advantage of this technology, and they had so many obstacles they had to overcome. How do I price this? The machines at the beginning were not at all doing what they should be doing. Lots of technical challenges, sales challenges, pricing challenges. And what we've seen is, as more and more people started getting into it, there started to create more of a mainstreaming of digital embellishments, and it's still not 100% mainstream yet. I still think it's going there, but what I realized is there was a lack of people addressing the industry specifically
Mm,
as the digital embellishment industry, and everybody was off in their corner, doing their own thing, and everybody was even naming conventions more, and like MGI was calling it 3D, and Scodex was calling it Sense, and these people were so brands had no idea what are we talking about here. So it was really hard to educate the market
And you
because
know, it's sorry to interrupt you. It's funny because our common friend Rob Ents, I
yes.
actually think that he told me that you more or less own the embellishment name, right?
Oh, I do own digitalembellishment.com, but I don't know what to do
Okay.
with it. So I have it redirected to my website. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm gonna have
Mm.
maybe you have some ideas for me, Morton.
Yeah, that might be so. I mean, so basically, what you say is that when you start, because I mean, obviously, with your name and your involvement in the digital embellishment space, I mean, you have, maybe you could just very briefly tell me about it. But I mean, you're literally born into this industry, right?
Yeah, I was yeah, since 2008. I think it was a Drupa 2008. It was my first day working for MGI, which is a company that was started by my two uncles and my father. And they brought a machine to Drupa 2008 that did spot UV with inkjet. And I think nobody expected the reaction. And next thing you knew, you had people, lined up around the blocks. And ever since then, it's been my passion, it's my jam, Morton. It's my passion. I wake up in the morning with a smile on my face, like, let's do digital embellishments. Let's go talk about this stuff. Let's go, spread the word. And ever since then, I've been involved with it. So it's fun. It's like a baby that's growing up, and you're seeing it growing up in front of your eyes.
It's kind of interesting when you say MTI and also the Abergel and your brothers, your uncle and your father, uncles and fathers. I mean, I would thought that we should do this interview in French then, basically. Right?
Ever since I moved back to the States, my French has gotten bad. So I think I'm losing my French. I need to practice. I would love to.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about something. One more thing I would like to talk to you about before we go into the new software you have developed, and that is I understand where you come from when you have the embellishment as part of your DNA and kind of a baby to how you see it and how you smile when you see beautiful things, right? I was just wondering because one thing is that we in our industry want to do something that looks great. But I also think that one of the things that every printing company probably fights with is a little bit that it also needs to be sellable and it needs to serve a purpose. So when you work as the head of Taktiful and the energy bunch of embellishment in the market, do you also spend time on, let's say, the added value to what does embellishment do for the customer and the products that where they're using embellishment?
Phenomenal question, Morton. And I tell people this all the time. I say, look, nobody's going to buy this because it looks good. Nobody's going to buy, whether it's the machine, they're not going to buy a machine because, oh, look at how cool the samples are. Same thing with the brands. They're not going to buy that piece of print just because it looks spectacular. They're going to do it for a particular reason. And whether that reason is going to be a return on response, like, okay, I'm going to get a higher response by putting embellishments on it, or I'm going to get a return on investment, meaning people are going to be able to spend a little bit more money. Or if I'm trying to premiumize my product, so basically put my product in another category, there's a time and a place for all kinds of embellishments. And it's not for all the time, and it's not definitely for every application. And a big part of it is knowing when to not pitch embellishments too, so that it's for the good of your customer. So it's really a question of what is your client trying to do? What is the actual value that they're trying to get from this piece of print? And does embellishment make sense? Yes or no? That's a good question, though.
Thank you. But I mean, it answers my question, but it also raises more questions because, I mean, the difficult part is, I mean, if you own an embellishment machine, whether it's MGI or Scodex or anything else in the market, I guess that's always like, okay, how do I limit myself, right? Because you have this wonderful technology and basically also it is both a profit and an added revenue opportunity when you can sell it. And if you go into and show this to a customer, I remember I spoke at Printing United. Fortunately, I can't remember the name, but the guy that you also interviewed that basically said that, okay, he went into this sports stadium and to the sponsor club, and then he showed all the fantastic samples. Said that here is sample 1 and here is sample 2 and this is sample 2 with embellishment, and everybody just bought embellishment from him, right? And right. I was just wondering because, I mean, basically with the opportunities that we have in digital embellishment, it is the when not to use embellishment is maybe becoming a harder discussion, right, rather than when to use embellishment.
Right. Well, I saw a speaker, and this speaker was really interesting to me because he's the biggest foil stamper probably in the world. Okay. And he was at the Foil Specialty Effects Association, and he was talking about how he goes into these brands and basically what the buying process is. So I'm going to talk about packaging for a second. When a brand wants to bring a new product to market, they load it up with embellishments, right? Because the way that shelf velocity works is first you start at the bottom of the shelf, and if people start buying it, they move you up and up and up until you're at eye level. And what they were saying is, look, if I'm bringing a new product to market, I'm going to load up the embellishments because there's psychological advantages of doing that. People are going to notice it faster. They're going to look at it longer. They're going to have a higher chance of touching it. If they touch it, they have a 62% chance of impulse buy. So there's a lot of statistics that show that. But once I've made it to that middle shelf and I've gone through the third moment of truth, I don't know if you're familiar with the first, second, third moment of the truth, and people are now loyal users and they'll buy this product on a regular basis. I don't need the those embellishments to be able to put on. So
Okay,
again,
so
it's
so it's
all
kind of
strategic.
a so it's kind of like a first response to a product is basically how you take the tactile feeling and emotion of a product, and that's where embellishment help you getting to that level, basically, right?
Yeah, everything
Mm,
has to be approached strategically. It's not just look how pretty it is.
mm,
It looks pretty because I want this. And if you're
mm,
able to sit down with whether it's the brand or the agency, what are you trying to do? Okay, for this, I recommend not doing embellishments. For the second round, let's do a little bit of embellishments, and for the third round, let's go all in because those are the people who are going to likely give us the most money for fundraising, or these are the people most likely to buy our product. So
mm,
it's all part of a strategy, and I think people who buy the equipment don't go into it necessarily with the right strategy on how to make money with it.
mm,
And when they're not successful, they end up just lowering the price
mm.
and start trying to compete on price, like a lot of them have been used to for a long time.
So that is what you have seen also, because I mean, as a software vendor working on the pricing thing that we're going to talk about the Taktify in a moment, basically you're trying to help your let's say the embellish uh, people, the printers that have embellishment equipment, to basically ensure that you don't give away your pricing with I mean, so you can profit from it, right?
100%. That
Mm,
more. That's my why. You know,
mm,
everybody has a different why, and I would love to know what your why is. Why do you do what you do at Inkish? But
mm,
um, my why is because I want to create a market that
mm,
doesn't shoot itself in the foot and just
mm,
becomes a commodity because nobody's responsible or thinking about it strategically on how to keep the prices where they should be.
mm,
My why is to stop the commoditization of digital embellishment, and I know ultimately I'll fail because that's the way market economics will work. But for me, it's I feel almost a personal responsibility, even to the people that I sold machines 2 years ago, that I have
mm,
to continue this quest to
mm,
educate the market to keep it where it should be.
mm. I think that's a very good why, and I think that is a very good way of identifying, let's say, your why people should also listen to you, why they should listen to me, why they should listen to different media. It's like asking what is it we want to achieve and why should people care about it, basically, right? Um, Today this is not about me, so I will spare people for that right now. But you and I, we should talk about it at some point, of course, right? I have one more question, I promise, because I'm very curious about your response to this. Because I mean, we talk about digital embellishment, and you are, as I mentioned already, born into the digital embellishment world through your legacy of family, basically, right? I was just thinking for a second. Embellishment, like if you look at the metallization or foiling, or especially those kind of, but also if you look at the embossing, debossing, and all the analog kind of super tools, right? Why is it there is a difference, in your opinion, from what you do with Taktiful in digital versus analog?
Because it's a good. Morton, you came prepared, buddy. These are great questions. I think there's a difference because it's a difference in market. So
Mm-hmm.
we look at digital printing, not embellishment. Digital printing, every year we're seeing more and more pages that are being printed digitally. And a lot of these pages are going to be considered basically short run. So let's
Mm-hmm.
call it under 2,000 sheets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Large majority under 500 sheets. A lot of this technology you mentioned, whether it's embossing or screen printing or foil stamping, or they're not really built for the digital print market. So I would say the majority of digital printed sheets aren't being embellished analog for two reasons. Number one, the cost, right? So it makes to create a die, to create all these things, is very expensive. And then number two is the issue around registration. And so when you look at registration, whether you pay $5,000 or $5 million for a digital press, there's always going to be what's called sheet to sheet image drift. So no
Mm-hmm.
two sheets are going to be exactly the same, like on a KBA
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, where you have the grip or the guide and everything's going to be always exactly in the same spot. So you have the image that's drifting around, and the analog finishing will always be dropping exactly in the same spot. So it's really, really difficult to register to a moving target that's being printed digitally. So I think the reality is there's a new market of how to embellish digitally printed sheets. And that's why I'm approaching a little bit different from traditional analog printing. So those are the two. It's like a key to this new market, and being able to hit it correctly.
I think it's a fantastic good answer, and I think it's a fantastic good answer also in the why from the perspective of learning people. Because let's say that you have an analog press and you want to go into digital embellishment, that is maybe not a big issue, but the other way around could be a little bit of a challenge. And again, that is what you're giving back to the society, is basically, or community, is basically saying that here's a learning and a knowledge about how these technologies work. Consider this before investing, right? I mean, that is super nice. Thank you for that one. Okay, now we have to move into it, because you released a piece of software called Taktify.
Right.
The million mile overview. What is it?
So really quickly, so we launched a new software company. We've been working on it on 3 years, but the reality is, we launched 3 products. The first one, which is Taktify, I've actually been working on it for like 13 years. Minimum. And it just it started as an Excel spreadsheet that had like 40 different tabs, and they got more and more complicated and more data that was coming in. And I partnered with some really smart people to create the software company who are able to basically use AI to basically track a lot of data to be able to. And listen, I'm getting really into the but overall, the 1 million mile overview is. It is a cost estimator for digital embellishments. So if you have a digital embellishment press, you would get a subscription to this. It's SaaS based. It tells you your exact cost of production, exactly. Like, we're trying to get it to the 10,000th of a cent. Like, we're not approximating. We're obsessed with getting it as close as possible. We literally have people with stopwatches judging these presses to understand how fast they're going. But more importantly, not only does it tell you exactly how much it's going to cost you to run, but it's going to tell you how much you can sell it for based on all the data we've been gathering over the past 5 years. And we take into account really interesting variables that I don't think any MIS system does today in the world, in the fact that it takes into account what zip code are you selling this product into. So if I'm selling this invitation for a wedding that's taking place in Beverly Hills, maybe it's going to be a little bit of a different price than maybe here in Melbourne, Florida. So we take into account where the embellishment is being sold. We're taking into account what the industry vertical is. So whether I'm selling it to a high-end hotel chain or I'm selling it to whatever
Motel
else.
6.
Exactly. Motel 6. It's going to be a different pricing approach. And the third thing we take into account is the application. And so in a very Uber type of way, we can see when there's surge pricing on certain requests. We can understand what's happening in the market live, and we can feed that information and trends back to the clients who are using our software, so they understand what's hot, what's not, where they should be focusing their sales efforts, what zip codes they should be going into, and how they should be positioning the pricing, and where they should be going to get this kind of work. And so basically, by bearing the data that we have and that we continue to build, they can see our database, and they can also create their own database, which, based on their wins and losses, will tell them what their sweet spot is. So they always know, the more you use it, it's like going to the gym. The more they use it, the better their database and AI gets, basically on predicting where this job will sell. And they can always compare that to our database, which is one of those really cool features where they're able to do that. So you're able to upload the file, you're able to predict exactly how much varnish you're going to use, how many rolls of foil. You're going to be able to understand where to sell this, how much to sell it for, and what applications to push. So that's Taktify. We're really excited about that product, and hopefully it'll help people not give it away also.
It sounds like at least that all the considerations that you have put into the development of the software and the knowledge that it accumulates is a very valuable tool. You mentioned it almost yourself, because because one of my questions would of course be like, why not just using an MIS system where you have all your print and paper and resource planning anyway? But basically, what you say to me is that Taktify is more, let's say, even more data. It has the AI to help you taking the right decision. So it's basically kind of a version 2 of an MIS system, but specifically for the benchmark market. I was just wondering, would it be a natural assessment to think that, okay, why not take the digital print side and the paper side into the, let's say, a future iteration of Taktify, or is that
Morton,
totally off
no,
suggestion? Or
I think to be successful, and I've learned this lesson, especially thanks to my father and my uncles, is you have to pick the niche first. Try not to be everything to everybody. Pick a very specific niche, prove out your point, prove out the product. And if there is, and so far the return on our betas, and I'll be publishing some video interviews with them, have been very positive. If it works, then the idea is, okay, maybe we go into wide format, maybe we go into digital printing, maybe we go into restoration, Morton, maybe making a hamburger here in Melbourne. How much can I sell a burger here compared to Beverly Hills is different. So once we've created that platform, there's no reason, if it's successful and people find value in it, we could absolutely either plug into an existing MIS that people have already spent a lot of money to create, or we have our own standalone down the road.
And that was the reason I was asking, because I mean, I know that you and I, we don't know each other that well, but one of the things that I try to educate the market, and also when I give presentations, is that the pricing models in MIS systems are very often full cost models. And full cost models have maybe even only maybe a good data foundation for the pricing. I actually question that. But even if they had a perfect one, then the cost price has nothing to do with the selling price. And that's where the layer where you put it in, like, okay, geography is one thing, silos one thing, segments one thing, applications one thing, is so valuable to what I hear from you, that I was just saying that same, let's say, value adding, method also applies to anything that we do in print. Because I mean, it's funny because people, I tell you a little anecdote because I think you will like it. I worked in a printing company in Copenhagen that unfortunately does not exist anymore, and maybe one of the reasons is because of what I'm telling you now. My boss, he said that we don't sell business cards in our company. You don't sell business cards? No, because there's too much work. We cannot make money on it. I said, but hey, if people are buying business cards, they might also buy something else. So it could be an eye opener for this, or a marketing tool for selling other stuff. And he said, yeah, but we cannot make money on it, so it doesn't really make sense for us. And then I said to him, but if you look at a sheet, let's say a 20-inch sheet, and you look at the number of at that time, that was before like digital became really good, right? And then I said to him, but if you look at gang printing all these business cards on a 20-inch or 40-inch sheet, just think about how much you sell that one sheet for compared to if you sell it as a 1,000 pages magazine on some other grammage, of course. And for me, it was totally logic, and for him, it was like, nah, it's too much work.
You nailed it, Morn. As usual, you picked it up immediately, and that's what we're trying to prevent. You know, it's if you buy a bottle of water, and I know with inflation, if you guys, I don't know if you're having the same thing in where you are as we are here, but probably. You go to the you buy a bottle of water here in the store, it's 50 cents for a bottle. That same bottle, if you go to the gym, it's $2. If you go to the movie theaters, it's $4. If you go to the airport, it's $6. If you're at a music festival and it's 100 degrees outside, it's going to be a $10 bottle of water.
You pay whatever you need to get it, right?
Exactly. So the idea is getting printers to understand where their value is, and understand what value is and what it means. And I could tell you some of the feedback. It's really funny from people using this is our first betas looked at our numbers and go, "You're crazy. People will never pay this."
Was that the first reaction?
That was the first reaction. So the estimators were using it, and they were feeding every week. We have meetings with our beta who are the estimators. They're like, yeah, we're getting pushback. The printers are all telling us that this is not going to work. I'm like, just try it. If it doesn't work, I will buy each of them a bottle of whiskey of their choice. And so they took me up on the bet, and they went out and they started selling, and they came back. They're like, I can't believe I'm not getting any pushback on this. And now suddenly everything's been able to change in their mind, saying, okay, this is where this pricing is. I was doing cost plus, and now I understand that because there's no other Scodexes or jet varnishes in my area, I don't need to do a cost plus model. I own what the value, and I could vehiculate that. So that was really one of the big things that they noticed. So yeah.
But you missed one thing here, my friend, and that is how many bottles of whiskey you earned on that bet, right?
Well, as long as they're not giving it away, that's worth all the business. That's worth all the whiskey bottles in the world, my friend.
Fantastic, and I think that is a wonderful example, and also an example that is, of course, let's say a true pain point in the industry. I think that one of the other things that I'm claiming, people think I'm stupid when I say commercial print is growing, and I'm just saying that it is growing because it depends on the measures, right? Because if you take out, let's say that you take out all the, let's say the mass-produced web-based print, for example, right? And then you say, look at the commercial printers that do, for example, beautiful books, beautiful samples, use embellishment, whether it's digital or analog. I actually think that part of the commercial business is not suffering a lot, because I can see when I visit, we have made 2,500 films now, and quite a few of them are from printing companies around the world, and it's the same trend everywhere. It's like you have a commodity print, of course, that you need, but the majority of printing companies are also adding value-added services. It can be warehousing, as one example. It can be distribution and postal services, but it can also be, the fantastic embellishment you see from the companies that really understand how that can benefit the customer. So I'm just so pleased that you're working on this, because it seems that we are on the same page on this one, Kevin, right?
I agree, Morten. I agree. And thank you for your message, and congratulations on 2,500 videos. That's amazing. That's wonderful work. Good for you.
Yes. That is, but it's I to be honest, thank you very much for saying that. But it's like when I saw you doing Taktiful the first time, I was just like, okay, this is the man that can make this happen, because of course, with your background and your network, and also and that is that 100% positive, man. But the fortune you have of being in the US, that is a more unified market than Europe, for example. Right? It would be more difficult to do the same thing in Europe, because at least you have 28 languages to take into consideration, right? So just imagine that you have to do all your conferences in 28 languages. That is a hell of a task anyway, right? So I think that what you achieved in a relatively short time is, you have made conferences, you have made exhibitions, you have been participating, you're working with AP Tech and with What They Think, and you have really got into the market and being recognized as an authority in this, and I think that's great, because authorities are also leading the industry in the right direction. So I really congratulate you on that. I think that's super well done.
Thanks, Morten. But it's not work for me. This is fun. This is just like you. I could see your smile when you're doing your videos. I could see you love what you do. And I get out of bed every morning, and I can't wait to do what I do, because for me, it's not really work. It's tiring, and it's a lot of hours, but it's not work. This is my passion, and I have the chance to work in something that I'm passionate about.
Of course. Let's we have running to the half hour here, so let's start with the last little topic here I want to talk about, because with Taktify, I hope that people that watch this understand the why that you have, and why it's also important to look into Taktify in order to make more money on your investment, but also maybe see opportunities for investing in digital embellishment in the future. And Drupa is around the corner, and there will probably be a lot of new exciting things at Drupa also in this area of our beautiful industry. How do people get started with, let's say, we put it into two tracks. Let's say that you are not in embellishment at all, digital embellishment at all, and want to use you can they use you as a consultant, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we have three companies under the Taktiful umbrella. One is Taktiful Software Solutions, which we talked about. We have Taktiful Consulting, So I work with some of the OEMs to bring new products to market. And the third one is Taktiful training. So I have an entire training company that works with people who recently purchased digital embellishment equipment or have had it for a while and are just not being successful. And we spend time 8 weeks with the operators, with the salespeople, with the marketing department, with the owners, and really get them up and running in the right direction. So, if they're ever interested on just speaking or getting, please reach out to me and have a conversation. And if you want to talk about digital embellishments, I'm always game. I'm always here. So yeah.
Okay, and can people reach out to you also from outside the US, or is it mainly American services you provide? Or
No, we have international client base. I think for Taktify right now, most of our data is North American, so Taktify won't really be available until 2025 in Europe. So that's what we're aiming for. But we have other products that are coming out under software umbrella that will be available in Europe and Asia Pacific, as well as the rest of the world, around 3D pre-visualization.
Oh, that was a hard word, right?
Yeah, I never get that one right, Martin. Like 99% of the time, I'm like, "Why are you going there, Kev?" But yeah, so how to see your embellishments in 3D on the screen before you go to print, and even now we're using AI to do automatic masking for people. Nice. And we have, I don't know if you've met Matt Redbear.
I have met him online. I don't know him, but I have seen him on your channel, of course, right?
Yeah. So he's training our models on how to design for this stuff. So we're trying to download his skill into our new software called Create.
So a digital version of him.
A digital Matt Redbear. Yes, exactly.
I mean, think of this having an avatar of him, right? That can just, or maybe even a robot that can do his work. I don't know. Maybe an idea, right?
Well, okay. Maybe down the road.
and last thing, the getting into Taktify, I understand that it is for Europe in 25, but in the US, if you want to learn and more about it, I mean, I've seen on your website that you, of course, have some videos and some demos and some description of it. Otherwise, they just reach out to you guys, or
just go to taktiful.ai if you're interested in the software, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has, or give you a demo. It'd be my pleasure.
And I would tell everybody that Kevin is actually one of the quite responsive Americans, unless he's on a plane. So if you use LinkedIn, he will actually respond to you. So fantastic. I wish you all the best, and I also want to thank you very, very much for the time here on Inkish. It was a pleasure talking to you, Kevin, and I hope to see you maybe in Düsseldorf in a couple of weeks.
I will see you there, Morten. I thank you very much for everything you're doing for the industry. Keep Likewise. Doing what you're doing. We're all watching, and we're all learning thanks to you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.